Exposed. 7 Sinister Rules of the Cursed Cemetery Night Shift in Portland's hidden darkness. Emma stood at the entrance of the Hillcrest Cemetery, its weathered stones looming against the ink-black sky. The chill in the air felt like a dozen icy fingers tracing the nape of her neck. A bitter wind whispered secrets that seemed to snap her heart in two. Nobody told her that working the graveyard shift would bring her face to face with the suffocating dread lurking in Portland's shadows. Every shift began with a cold fog wrapping its fingers tightly around her. She fought the urge to turn back, but desperation drove her forward. Just days before, she'd been an exhausted single mom, barely scraping by with 2 children to support. That faded ad, suggesting quick cash for a night's work, had sounded innocent enough. But this was no ordinary workplace. Emma enlisted her friend Matt for support, who sauntered through the unmarked paths like a ghost himself. His careless laughter echoed against the granite tombstones, but every giggle sent slivers of icy fear racing down her spine. On her second night, a wailing wind picked up, sending rustling leaves swirling around her like faded memories. The sound was an unsettling melody, a chorus of forgotten souls calling out from their eternal rest. "You know the town's whispers, right?" She recalled her neighbor cautioning about the 7 Sinister Rules. Don't cross the graves after dark. Never speak the names of the fallen. Emma dismissed the tales as mere superstition, but they gnawed at her as she pulled her jacket tighter. "Hey, Emma," Matt called, waving from the other end, a flashlight flickering in the gloom. That small spark of connection seemed almost comforting until it flickered out like a dying star. "Come check this out." He stepped away from sight, his figure swallowed by the darkness. Agitated, she followed him, until an unnatural silence fell. No rustle of leaves, no sounds of wildlife, just a heavy stillness that throbbed against the pulse of the night. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As the night dragged on, shadows danced, darting between graves like mischievous specters. Emma's heart thundered like a wild drum against her ribcage. A crash, a grave fell out of line. Her breath stopped. The damp earth reeked of decay, mixing with her fear. Desperation clawed at her throat. She caught snatches of hushed conversations among her coworkers. Matt included words that felt heavy in the air. "Darker dealings," they whispered, eyes flitting to her with an intensity that made her skin crawl. On a night drenched in thunder, she stumbled upon an ancient grave featuring a crumbling headstone the same last name as hers. Panic shot through her like icy fire. As she turned, something shifted from the corner of her eye. She saw a shadow dart away. The wind howled a sickly tune of laughter, and Emma felt like prey. Frozen between familiars and ghosts, Emma realized that the stories carried more weight than mere folklore. The graveyard was a symphony of secrets, and she stood in the center, a note trembling on the brink of disappearance. What did this connection mean? Would she unearth the darkness of her heritage or be swallowed whole by the cemetery's cursed embrace? Gripped by fear, she could only guess what awaited her behind the shroud of whispers that loomed just out of sight. Emma squinted into the thickening fog, heart racing, every instinct screaming at her to run. Above her, a sliver of moonlight glinted off the nearby gravestones, revealing twisted shapes and anguished faces etched into stone. A flash of movement snatched her attention. Her pulse quickened as she strained to see what had darted past her. "Matt," she called, but only silence answered. The oppressive quiet was suffocating, clinging to her skin like damp earth. Shadows melded into the night, making ordinary headstones appear like looming specters. Emma took a cautious step forward. "Matt." A low rustle cut through the air, unmistakably human. Her heart knitted itself tightly in her chest as she pressed forward, seeking the origin of that sound. The darkness swallowed her, except for the feeble beam of her flashlight that flickered insistently, weak and trembling. "Emma!" Matt's voice emerged, strained and distant. "Over here. I found something." Hope surged as she followed the voice deeper into the cemetery. Past the weeping willows and crooked statues that seemed to lean closer with each step she took. The air thickened, weighed down with an unsettling tension. Every nerve in her body warned that something was terribly wrong. "Matt!" she shouted again, panic threading through her voice. The shadows stirred, and cold fingers of dread wrapped around her spine. She had crossed a line, one she didn't even know existed. Then she saw him, silhouetted against an ancient tombstone, stricken motionless. His flashlight lay abandoned at his feet, sputtering like a wounded animal. "Emma," he breathed, eyes wide, reflecting a terror that froze her bones. She rushed to him, but her feet skidded on the damp earth, slowing her pace. "What's wrong?" she asked, but the words hung futile in the thickening air. Without answering, he pointed at the grave behind him, an ornate stone adorned with a name that echoed through her like a phantom whisper. It was her last name. She stepped closer, the blood draining from her face. No, Emma felt the ground shift beneath her as if the grave were a living monster. The inscription seemed to mock her, a grotesque family resemblance stretching across generations she never knew. Couldn't be real. Her head spun. All those tales, all the superstitions, what were they hiding? "Are you okay?" Matt stepped toward her, voice quaking. Then, the ground trembled, and a deep rumble emanated from somewhere far below. The air grew colder, stinging her skin, making her nails vibrate against her palms. Suddenly, from the corner of her eye, Emma caught a glimpse of movement, a figure darting away. "Matt, do you see that?" But when she turned, he was gone, swallowed by the creeping darkness. Just her and the grave now, alone. The fog thickened, wrapping around her like a noose. Fear clawed at her throat, choking her. "Matt!" she screamed, but only the graves offered her silence. The shadows twisted and spiraled, tears streaming down her cheeks as realization hit her like a slap. She wasn't just in a haunted cemetery. She was part of it. In the heart of Hillcrest, she had awakened something. The cemetery was alive, and it didn't want her to leave. Breathing heavily, Emma tried to back away, but cold hands of fog pulled her back, whispering she would join the family legacy. As the mists conspired around her, Emma felt the tremors of the undead beckoning her, a chilling phantom symphony rising to a fever pitch. What had she uncovered? What were they waiting for? And then she saw it, a twisted shadow emerging slowly from behind the stone, a shape of a figure with empty, hollow eyes. The cursed rules began echoing in her mind, warning of the chaos that could awaken. The whispers entangled her, urging her to recognize the truth. She couldn't turn back now. Not if she wanted to escape with her life. Emma stumbled back, breathless and terrified, knowing she had not one hope left. In a graveyard of secrets, she had become a lost note on an ancient score. And just beyond the fog, something sinister waited. What would she have to do to survive the night? Emma's heart thundered in her chest as the shadow crept closer, the moonlight barely illuminating its grotesque form. The figure was thin and elongated, skin stretched tightly over bones that seemed to shift and contort into shapes defying nature. It stared at her with hollow eyes truthfully. It seemed more like it was staring through her. "Matt!" she shrieked, desire and hope crashing into despair. The fog thickened, wrapping tighter, a vice around her. She should run, but her legs refused to move. Suddenly, with a flash, the flashlight near her feet flickered back to life, illuminating the ground. Emma noticed, etched into the dirt, a series of symbols. They twisted into incomprehensible patterns, each one radiating a malevolent energy that practically crackled with tension. Her breath hitched as she recalled the folklore her grandmother used to tell of curses and rituals, of names that were never meant to be spoken. "Emma," the figure whispered, its voice a rasp that echoed with a hunger only darkness could know. It stretched a skeletal hand toward her, fingers curling like delicate tree branches reaching for sunlight but deadly in their grasp. "You belong here with us." the weight of its words reptilian, slithering down her spine. She shook her head, willing herself to focus. "What do you want?" she gasped, her voice trembling in the chilly air. "Your essence, your life. The blood that binds you to the past." Each word dripped with malice. The figures around her grave began to shift. The other tombstones, once merely stone, now felt alive, their surfaces roiling as faces emerged, mouths agape in silent screams, reaching toward her. She stumbled backward, desperate for escape, but the darkness closed in. "No, no, I didn't mean to disturb you." The creature laughed softly at first, then escalating into a cacophony of hollow chuckles. "The living seek what they do not understand. You can never avoid the legacy you were born into, Emma." There was no time to think. Instinct kicked in. She turned and ran, the fog swirling in an angry vortex around her. Shadows flickered like mad fireflies, taunting her with their chaos. She could almost hear them whisper, a quilt of voices begging for freedom. "Find your past, embrace it, or be consumed by it." The creature howled. Its rotting breath brushed against her as she fled, the cold seeping through her skin. Emma surged past grinning skulls and forgotten souls that seemed to wail her name. Each step echoed the urgency of her own heartbeat. Every movement felt like wading through thick sludge that tried to pull her down. "Matt, where are you?" No response. Just the tempest of shadows and whispers pulling her back toward the grave she had stumbled upon, as if there was some unseen force dragging her toward her fate. Then she tripped, her foot snagging on the edge of a broken headstone. She fell hard, gasping as the world spun around her. The symbols from before danced in her vision, swirling like leaves in a storm. With trembling hands, she attempted to scrape the dirt away. The deeper she dug, the more she felt a pulse. Something alive beneath her only fueled her panic. The whispers turned into chaotic roars all around her, drowning her thoughts. But in that moment of despair, a strange clarity cut through the noise. Maybe this was not just a curse. Perhaps it was a way to break free. She remembered the stories, the rules her grandmother had spoken of. 7 sinister rules that governed those who tread in the cursed grounds. The air crackled with an electric energy as she glimpsed a verse in a locket around her neck, one she had ignored. "To reclaim, you must bind, to confront the ancient silence." Emma's breath caught as the stones shifted beside her, restoring a moment of clarity amid the chaos. "What if I reject it?" she whispered into the emptiness. The ground beneath rumbled in response, the very fabric of her reality warping as if testing her resolve. Outside the fog, sounds throbbed, the war cries of the restless spirits, the urging of the shadows. Together they pressed back against her, asking, demanding. She needed to decide. Face the darkness, or would she be consumed by it? As she grappled with her fate, the ground heaved again. What shape would her legacy take? And would embracing her past save her or seal her doom? Shadows flickered, and each face grew closer as the fog began to swirl again, whispering promises of horrifying truths. Emma had reached a precipice. The next move would decide everything. And then she heard it, a soft voice in the turbulence. Help us or be lost. What was she willing to risk to save herself and redeem those trapped souls? Emma's heart raced as she fought against the pull of the grave. Panic surged through her veins. Each shadow around her seemed to press down, each whisper threatening to drown her. Help us or be lost. The voices swirled like a tempest, desperate and haunting. She instinctively looked down at the symbols in the dirt, a web of knowledge that felt ancient, dangerous. Her grandmother's stories echoed in her mind, hauntingly vivid. If she could decipher their meaning, perhaps she could turn this horror into a weapon. She needed to recall the 7 rules, the truths that could bind her to the ground beneath. Think, Emma. She spat through gritted teeth, furious at her fear. As she dug deeper into the earth, the pulse quickened beneath her fingers. The symbols began to glow faintly, pulling her in, igniting both fear and fascination. Suddenly, a chilling breeze swept through, and the creature's laughter rose again to a chilling crescendo. It washed over her, penetrating like ice. Reject the past, and you'll become one of us, Little girl. The laughter twisted, becoming more sinister. A twisted harmony of hungry souls. Emma let out a strangled cry, shaking her head violently. I want tea. She pressed her palms against the ground, feeling the unstable earth shifting beneath her, echoing the torment of those entombed within. The cold seeped through her skin like stagnant water, seeking every weak point in her resolve. Every instinct screamed at her to flee, to escape the looming darkness, but she felt the urge to confront it. She needed to reclaim her legacy, to break the cycle of despair that trapped the cursed. Face the darkness? She whispered to herself, the words tasting like ash. What if embracing it means I lose everything? In the depths of her chest, a flicker of courage ignited. She couldn't merely run. She had to tread carefully in this malevolent surface, embrace the past, even if it reeked of filth and decay. Her past was a chain she had yet to fully understand. In the distance, through the fog, she heard a faint voice, familiar yet distant. Emma, it's me, Matt. Her heart leaped at the sound, pulsing with renewed vigor. Matt, she called back, straining to pinpoint his location, desperation lending her strength. Where are you? Yet the shadows twisted tighter around her, attempting to snuff out her hope. You must choose. They intoned, the creature's forms morphing into grotesque approximations of what had once been human. Silent, pleading faces made of vapor reached for her, their intentions obscured behind their hollow eyes. The ground began to tremble again, more ferociously this time, as if it protested her every breath. The ancient burial ground was alive, and every stone resonated with a buried truth. Find the truth hidden here. Uncover the rules. The whispers urged, echoing through her skull. Staring at the symbols again, she dug a little deeper, the earth crumbling away her fear. A name slipped through her lips, one she had thought lost Aldfarm. Immediately, the shadows recoiled as if struck. The laughter ceased. A fragile silence blanketed the graveyard. She had tapped into something primal. The weight of expectation hung in the air, every soul around her waiting for what came next. The fog thinned, revealing the figure of Matt trapped between two gnarled tombstones, his face pale but with an intensity of urgency. Emma, he shouted, but his voice flickered. You need, and the ground shifted violently once more, swallowing his words as a fissure opened between them. The ancient runes pulsed a feral light, urging her toward Matt, or toward the symbols, or a piercing scream cut through the night, twisting her gut with unease. It came from a direction she had not acknowledged, where shadows converged, forming a vortex, a spiral of bitterness and wrath. In that moment, Emma faced the ultimate decision, caught between the sealed fate of those lost and the slim hope of saving Matt. The truth of her existence, the legacy intertwined with the cursed, loomed over her with ominous weight. Will you save him, or save yourself? The answer lingered on the tip of her tongue, but the shadows breathed heavily, unrelenting, ready to pulsate with whatever choice she made as her breath caught. The fog engulfed her vision, panic and dread coiling tighter than ever before. And in the chaos, a cold realization struck her like a bolt. What if saving one meant dooming the other? Emma's gut twisted, pushing her heart to its limit. How much of herself would she need to sacrifice to free either of them? The fog thickened once more, whispering questions, casting lingering doubts. Outside of her own body, a figure loomed, watching, waiting, hungry for her choice. The chilling scream echoed in Emma's ears, wrapping around her like a vice. It was coming closer, the shadows starting to swirl together, creating a ghastly funnel that loomed above the graves. The air ignited with a biting cold, forcing her to shiver and question everything she had ever known. Emma, Matt's voice broke through the chaos, urgent and persistent. Please, you have to know, she cried, clenching her fists tighter against the pulsing ground. The symbols flickered, brighter every moment, like they were alive, begging her for clarity. She felt caught in a web, each overlapping strand whispering temptations that clawed at her sanity. The shadows tightened their grasp, their whispers morphing into cruel taunts. You're running out of time. Choose now, or the darkness will choose for you. With every heartbeat, fear intertwined with dread, wrapping around her throat. She wanted to call Matt's name again, but a heaviness in her chest blocked the sound. Recalling the ancient stories her grandmother had told her, Emma pictured the 7 rules, the elusive truths that could save or shatter their fates. She had to remember. The fog started to lift, unveiling the grotesque faces of those trapped between life and the void. They twisted in agony, mouths forever repeating their silent pleas. "Help us," they whispered, voices intertwining with her doubts. "Join us, embrace freedom in despair." Emma felt her heart racing, choices weighing on her like cement shoes. "Why should I help you?" she shouted, anger propelling her words into the night. "You're just shadows." "No," one of the figures rasped, its hollow eyes locking onto hers. "We were once like you, with promises to keep." The shadows shifted, revealing a glimpse of their stories, each a tragic reflection of history. They showed her moments stolen, dreams forgotten, lives extinguished. Emma's gut twisted. If these souls were trapped due to broken promises, did she too have a part in this legacy of despair? The ground trembled again, harder this time. A crack broke open beneath her feet, fissures snaking threateningly as if to swallow her whole. Desperation clawed up her spine, and she started to back away, her instincts screaming for flight. But Matt South's figure was so close. "Emma!" His voice surged, a tether pulling her back toward hope. "You have to stay. I need you. We need you. Help us or be lost." The shadows echoed, their voices now eager and taunting. The choice hung heavily in the air like a guillotine waiting to fall. All at once, the weight of her decision bore down on her. Emma's heart raced as she remembered Aldfarm, the blood pact. If it was truly called forth, it would either shatter the chains of the past or tether her forever in this cursed realm. "Enough!" she screamed, adrenaline igniting her resolve. The ground pulsated, and the symbols came alive, vibrating with a primordial energy. "If I'm to choose, then I choose to face the darkness." The shadows recoiled. Their voices turned shrill, a cacophony of betrayal. "Release the darkness. You will regret this choice." Lightning flashed, illuminating the graveyard in stark relief, and in that moment of clarity, Emma saw the truth. Those who had come before had made their choices, but hers would unfold differently. With a surge of power, she reached out toward the symbols, grasping the knowledge buried within. She could feel their energy coursing through her, ebbing and flowing like a tide threatening to crash. Right then, she caught a hint of familiarity in the swirling forms, a glimmer of recognition that chilled her to the bone. Just when she thought she could harness the energy, a silence fell, thick and suffocating. The shadows stilled, and she felt them turning toward an unseen figure emerging from the gloom, a specter cloaked in darkness, eyes glinting with an unsettling hunger. "Are you truly ready, Emma?" it hissed, its breath a cold wind against her skin. "Are you prepared to see what lies beyond the veil of your lineage?" Emma's heart thundered wildly. She could feel the weight of destiny pressing against her. Could she bear to face whatever horrors this figure would unveil about her family? As the specter stepped closer, the air electrified, and all she could manage was a shaky breath, her mind racing at the implications. What darkness awaited her on the other side, and would she discover more than she bargained for? Emma could barely breathe as the specter inched forward. Its form twisted and warped under the dim lighting, each flicker revealing ghastly features that sent another wave of terror crashing over her. She wanted to scream, but her voice lost itself in the cacophony of the winds swirling around the graves. "Your lineage has shadows deeper than you know," the specter crooned, voice laced with a malicious glee that echoed through her bones. She backed away, her heart pounding like a war drum. The ground beneath her trembled as if it were alive, the symbols thrumming with palpable energy. Memories flashed in her mind, her grandmother's stories, warnings about trusting shadows, the price of broken promises. But this wasn't just a story anymore. It was her reality. "Who are you?" she managed, her voice a mere whisper, swallowed by the dark. The specter paused, a slow grin spreading across its face. I am the harbinger of your bloodline's secrets, the curator of tragedies that hung like a cloud over your family. Do you want to know how they all intertwine? Emma strained to understand, her instincts screaming to run. But something about the specter held her captive, an insidious curiosity digging into her mind. No, you're lying. This can't be real. Oh, but it is, Emma. It purred, its eyes glinting with a sinister glow. Your ancestors tread upon the same haunted soil. They too had choices just as you do now. The shadows responded like a torrent, moaning and wailing, as if they were echoing her fears. She felt their cold breaths against her skin, an overwhelming chill sinking deep into her flesh. You think you're different? You think you can face the darkness without becoming it? No. Each denial she uttered felt weaker than the last. I want to be like them. Then say it. The specter challenged, its voice rising, demanding, sharp as a blade. Swear to me. Draw upon the pact of blood, and face what lies ahead. Emma hesitated. The ground shook violently, shards of earth breaking away, leaving deep crevices teeming with an unnatural darkness. Sorrowful whispers slipped from the jaws of the shadows, each one piercing through her resolve like an arrow. Join us. Be free, they urged, their voices seductively soft despite their eerie forms. Take the power in your hands. The truth will set you free. Stop, she cried, clutching her head as their pleas began to worm into her thoughts like a poison. Anger and despair surged through her heart racing faster as her blood felt like ice. I want to trade my soul. Foolish girl, the specter hissed, stepping closer until Emma could see the depths of its eyes, a swirling void of despair. You either accept the legacy or become a part of it. Your blood calls for rebirth. Do you not wish to know the true depths of your family's darkest secrets? She glanced over at Matt, the flicker of his worry cutting through the suffocating darkness. He was still fighting. He needed her, but the shadows were stronger, pulling her into their depths with every second. The tension mounted. What if I do embrace the darkness? She said, her voice barely audible. The specter's grin widened. Then perhaps you will unlock the potential buried deep within. The 7 rules that dictate fate. Your fate, Emma. With that, a blinding flash split the night, and reality flickered like an old film. Emma staggered, throwing her arms up to shield her eyes. The roar of a storm echoed through the graveyard. When the light dimmed, she found herself face to face with the symbols, each one now glowing with urgency. Make your choice now, the specter beckoned, extending its skeletal hand. The rules of your ancestors await. With her heart pounding and the fate of her lineage resting on her shoulders, Emma stood on the precipice of a decision that could tear her apart. Was she ready to embrace the shadows, to unlock the truths buried in centuries of negativity? The shadows swirled more violently now, thick with anticipation. And as she took a step toward the unknown, she heard a soft, desperate whisper drift through the air. Emma, don't. Would she dive into the abyss, or would the past swallow her whole? The answer danced just out of reach, hovering between the threshold of hope and despair. What lay on the other side of this decision? Emma felt a cold shiver creep down her spine as the specter's hand reached ever closer. Its long, bony fingers seemed to pulse with a life of their own, beckoning her toward a chasm of unknowable horrors. A part of her screamed to flee, to turn and drag Matt away from this accursed place. But another part, dark and insatiable, pulled her in with a promise of knowledge, a whisper that begged for liberation from ignorance. Emma! Matt's voice cut through the haze, panic-lined in every syllable. His eyes were wide, pleading. Don't listen to it. We have to go. The urgency of his call ignited a spark of defiance. She glanced back at him, then at the specter, the tension thickening the air. What was the cost of this power? What would she lose if she surrendered? It's too late, child. The specter's voice slid into her mind like ice. Even if you turn away, the darkness is already within you. You must embrace it to escape your family's cursed history. But as she stood there, caught in the storm of emotions, the specter's features twisted into something grotesque. The shadows cocooned her thoughts, each word becoming a shaft of piercing dread. Uncertainty gnawed at her, filling her with the sense of a trap that was already set. Choose. The specter raged, its voice rising like the thunder of the storm growing overhead. Join me, and you will understand the 7 rules of power. Deny me, and you will be consumed. Emma clenched her fists, heart racing, feeling the chaotic pull of her lineage weighing down on her. And then it snapped. No, I refuse. I want to become part of this, she shouted, the words spilling out with righteous fury. The ground beneath her surged upwards, breaking apart, as if in response to her defiance. The air crackled with tension. The specter's amusement twisted into rage. You think you can escape me? It is already too late. The shadows have marked you. Suddenly, the earth erupted, and dark tendrils of shadow shot up, wrapping around her ankles, pulling at her. Emma gasped, struggling against their icy grip. They whispered, weaving in and out of her thoughts a cacophony of her past. Her grandmother's warnings, the tales of despair, and the losses that shaped her family's narrative. Each memory stung like a wasp, an echo she couldn't drown out. Matt, she cried, reaching for him. But the spectral energies surged harder, leaning into her, inviting, taunting. She could feel the lure of power, promises of control dancing in her mind. The wind howled and the shadows tightened their hold. She could scarcely hear Matt's shouts above the storm. Fight it, Emma. Please. No. The shadows screamed back, a chorus of forgotten souls interwoven with her own fears. Join us, Emma. We can give you what he cannot. Suddenly, with a sharp insight, she twisted her thoughts. You don't control me, she screamed, letting the courage surge through her like flame. With a fierce thrust of will, she ripped her foot free from the chains of shadow, her body propelled back into the chill night. The specter lunged, eyes blazing with hatred and disbelief. Emma collided with Matt, both of them tumbling into a patch of moonlight, the ghastly grasp losing its bite. The specter reared back, shrieking, its form flickering as if losing its grip on reality. You think you've won? This is merely the beginning of your torment. You'll come to understand the depths of your bloodline's pain whether you want to or not. As dawn's first light broke on the horizon, illuminating the graveyard with a pale glow, Emma felt the fabric of the world shift around her. The ground groaned, and she glanced around, realizing with horror that glowing symbols now etched bright paths leading deeper into the cemetery, each one pulsing with malevolent energy, whispering dark secrets. What does it mean? Matt breathed, his eyes wide with fear, scanning the twisted trees that surrounded them. Emma's heart raced. I don't know, but I'm not done. I need to know those 7 rules. A scuttling sound echoed behind them as something shifted in the shadows. The specter's presence hung like a storm cloud, and an overwhelming need to confront the past surged within her. But would confronting the darkness mean surrendering their sanity, or might it prove to be the only way to survive the cursed legacy? With dread tightening around her heart, Emma took Matt's hand, and together they stepped toward the inviting glow of the symbols, their future uncertain yet anchored in a bitter resolve to uncover what lay hidden in the depths of their family's tragedy. What new horrors awaited them, waiting in the shadows? The moment their feet landed on the path marked by the glowing symbols, an unsettling warmth enveloped them. The cemetery pulsed with energy, an unseen heartbeat that thrummed like a warning bell in Emma's chest. As they ventured deeper, the air grew thick with whispers, crawling under her skin, tracing paths of ice along her spine. What did we step into? Matt's voice trembled, barely a whisper against the cacophony that swirled around them. Emma didn't answer. Her attention was drawn to the symbols etched below the gnarled branches overhead. Each one shimmered, alluring yet ominous, as though they held secrets that could unravel or destroy them. It scattered her focus, tugging painfully at the threads of her consciousness. Stay close, Emma finally managed to say, forcing herself to sound steady. The shadows shifted, the shapes of the trees weaving and melding, creating grotesque figures that seemed to watch them with an insatiable hunger. They stepped cautiously, each crunch of gravel underfoot drowning in the suffocating silence. Above, the sky darkened uneasily, and the fog thickened, hiding the sun that barely dared shine through. Time felt twisted, as if moments were dragged longer, stretching them into an eternity of dread. As they approached a grotesque statue at the center of the cemetery, a twisted figure of a woman weeping, Emma froze. The statue was adorned with more glowing symbols, a warning of sorts, a plea for the lost souls that lay beneath. What if this isn't a place to find answers? Matt urged, glancing back at the path they came from, now veiled in shadows. What if it only leads to more questions? She inhaled sharply. Doubts gnawed at her resolve. Was she searching for truth, or inviting danger? The spectre's words echoed in her mind, a chilling chorus that insisted upon her bloodline's cursed fate. Her heart raced as a shiver clawed up her neck. We have to know, she insisted. We can't turn back now. With a hesitant motion, she touched the statue, a shattering chill coursing through her fingers, as if the stone breathed a chilling sigh. The symbols flared, illuminating the area in a ghostly glow, as an all-consuming darkness pooled at the edges of their vision. The whispers crescendoed into a wailing, creating a tempest of sound that shattered her senses. Emma, pull away, Matt shouted, grabbing her wrist and yanking her back. But it was too late. A wave of icy energy surged through her. It cracked against her mind like thunder, unraveling her thoughts, leaving her vulnerable. She staggered back, gasping for breath, the shadows swirling more violently now, taking shape in the reflections of her fear. Then, one by one, the symbols glowed brighter, each one revealing a horrifying image of her ancestors. Their fears, curses, and moments of despair played out like a twisted theater of suffering. Bloodlines tangled in betrayal, tears shed under cruel moons, despair etched deeper than any grave. This is it, Emma whispered, eyes wide as she witnessed fragments of the past trapped within stones. These are the rules. Matt shook his head in disbelief. You don't want this knowledge, Emma. This is a trap. But some deep part of her couldn't look away. She was being pulled into a vortex of fate, and for all the terror coiling within her, she was enraptured. Before Emma could fully grasp what was happening, the ground beneath them trembled violently, heaving as if the spirits themselves were waking in fury. The statue's eyes glowed with menacing fire, and shadows twisted, morphing into clawed specters that loomed, their whispers rising into a shriek. Join us, they screamed, their words drenched in anguish. Uncover the truths that bind you. Emma's breath caught in her throat. Clarity wrestled with madness as she realized the price of knowing. The symbols pulsed dangerously, beckoning her with promises of power crafted by the pain of the past. With her heart racing, she drew from the depths of her resolve. We can't surrender. Not now. As hope and despair clashed, the shadows threatened to engulf them, swirling into a cyclone of horror. The figure of the weeping woman erupted, scattering a cloud of dust that clouded their vision as they battled against the pulling tide. One undeniable truth dawned upon Emma. If the rules were indeed dangled before her, she would have to choose them wisely or risk losing everything. Still, the darkness whispered tantalizingly, a siren's call echoing an ancient seduction. Embrace us, find the power, become free. Emma's grip tightened on Matt's hand. As they prepared to face the onslaught of shadows and secrets, they were left with one burning thought. Could they withstand the weight of knowing the terrible 7 rules before it consumed them whole? What would be their fate if they dared to uncover the truth? The shadows recoiled, but not before a piercing voice filled the air, echoing from all directions. Shall you unveil the pain? It screeched, a sound that cut through the tempest. The air felt electric, charged with anticipation and dread. Emma's heart thundered in response, wild and erratic, as if it too was trying to escape. Emma, we need to run, Matt cried, his face blanched with terror. He tugged at her hand, but the weight of the symbols pulled her deeper into the darkness. She could feel the pull, a sweet temptation breaking through the panic. No, just a little longer, Emma shouted over the din, her eyes glued to the statues. Fragments of their ancestors twisted in the fading light. Their tormented faces were trapped in a loop of sorrow. Each expression told a story of betrayal, grief, and one singular truth. They had succumbed to the very darkness surrounding them. Suddenly, the ground shook violently, a rumble like an ancient beast awakening from slumber. The light from the symbols intensified, illuminating a shape rising from the earth. Emma staggered back, pushing against Matt as they huddled close. The shadows coalesced into a figure, more solid than anything they had encountered. It was cloaked in a veil of darkness, its form fluctuating between the resemblance of a person and something far more sinister. A gaunt face emerged, suffering etched into its features, its eyes carved from the same malevolent energy that surrounded them. "Fools!" it croaked, voice hoarse and raspy. "You trespass where the cursed dwell. Seek not the truths that will consume you. Leave us alone," Matt shouted, braced like a soldier at the edge of battle. But Emma felt paralyzed, rooted to the spot. The dark figure leaned closer, its breath ragged, carrying the scent of decay. Emma could only watch in horror. "Your blood flows with the legacy of despair," the specter continued, each word a dagger to her core. "To unravel the past, you must face what it means to bear this burden." The ground shook again, and the specter extended a bony finger toward Emma. Her skin crawled. The whispering intensified, swirling around them in maddened delight. "Embrace us," they hissed, "and reclaim what has been forged in suffering." "No," Emma cried out, finally finding her voice. "I won't let you take us." With a burst of determination, she pulled away from Matt, breaking his hold. She stepped forward, unwilling to let fear control her. "Emma, don't." Matt's warning was lost in the din, but Emma felt a different clarity take hold. She raised her hands, trembling but fierce. The symbols around them blazed brighter, as if her defiance pulled from their power. "I choose my own path." The spectral figure recoiled, its expression shifting from anger to fear. The cacophony of whispers faltered, and for a split second, silence enveloped them, heavy and expectant. But the breath of the past was quicker to strike back. The darkness surged, crashing forward, wrapping around Emma like icy tendrils, tugging her deeper into its maw. Fear enveloped her, the weight of their ancestors' burden now pressing down, squeezing the breath out of her lungs. "Matt!" she screamed, and he lunged forward, but shadows wrapped around him too, pulling him away as his desperate outcry was absorbed into the chaos. "Don't abandon me," Emma yelled, a primal fear taking root as she fought against the swirling despair. The truth of the 7 rules lurked just out of reach, taunting her. What agony awaited if she uncovered them? What treachery would tear her apart from within? With a surge of ferocity, she racked her brain for something, anything to fight back. The symbols, recalling pieces of what she witnessed, she pressed her palms against the nearest glowing mark. Together, entwined in chaos, she realized they were bound by choice. As her fingers pressed down, light erupted in a blinding flash, illuminating the cemetery and the shadows frozen in shock. But darkness clawed back, hungry for its victims. Just as the light reached its zenith, Emma felt the pull shift. "Will you stand in the light or remain in shadows?" The specter wheezed, rage bubbling in its tone. With one violent motion, Emma wrenched her hand free, choosing the flickering chance to fight. Every choice rippling through her blood, she felt the weight of her family's pain wrapping around her. What would the symbols finally reveal? The fountain of darkness roared, and she teetered on the edge of the unknown. Would she plead for the truth, or allow the shadows to drown her once and for all? In that moment of excruciating choice, she understood. The rules were not only for knowledge. They were shackles binding her to others' suffering as the shadows clawed toward her. Whispers rose in a crescendo, "Choose wisely, for the darkness hungers and it will not relent." The choice loomed as the cemetery shook again, threatening to swallow them whole if they could not harness its twisted light. Would they unravel the truth, or would the weight of their past destroy everything they were? Terror wrapped around Emma, coiling tighter still, as she felt the impending danger inch closer, hungry, waiting. Would she lose Matt to the shadows? Emma and Matt stood at the brink of uncertainty, the weight of their ancestors pressing down, shadows clawing at their heels. The darkness around them swirled like a tempest, hungry to engulf them and bury their hopes. Emma, we can't let it win. We need to push back together. Matt's voice broke through the panic, grounding her, reminding her of their shared resolve. Taking a deep breath, Emma nodded, steeling her heart, her instincts awakening. Let us face this together, she murmured, the words thick with fear but layered with determination. With that, they turned toward the spectral figure. We stand against you and your darkness. You'll not take us, Emma shouted, her voice resonating through the graveyard. The ground trembled in response, the cymbals thrumming like a heartbeat beneath her feet. The specter recoiled, shock mingling with rage, its form flickering in and out like a sputtering candle. You do not understand the burden you bear, it hissed, each word dripping with venom. Your family's pain is yours to inherit. Not if we break the cycle, Matt declared, gripping Emma's hand tightly. Together, they stepped forward, defiance radiating from their stance. The shadows surged, wrapping around them like a shroud. Emma felt the cold seep into her skin, heard whispers clawing at her mind. Dropping to one knee, she pressed her palm against the pulsating earth. Show us. A flash of light erupted from her fingers, illuminating the graveyard in a blinding radiance. The ghosts of her ancestors shimmered to life around her, their faces a mixture of sorrow and hope. The air vibrated with energy as the specter shrieked, fighting against the light. Remember the rules, Emma. The knowledge is power. The ancient voices cried out, swirling around her like a protective barrier. A sense of belonging surged through her, a connection to those before her. Each heartbeat echoed with forgotten promises. Feel it, Emma, Matt shouted above the din. The truth can't hurt us if we own it. Breathless, Emma grasped the warmth of the light, a powerful truth encasing her heart. Drawing strength from her lineage, she spoke out loud the first rule she finally grasped. Face the darkness, embrace the pain. The ground shook violently, and the specter shrieked, its form mangling into a dark tornado. You cannot stand against the truth. The shadows will consume you. But Emily felt the shadows curling away. The light expanded, erupting with the force of a storm. You don't control me, she declared, her voice infused with an assertiveness she had never felt before. The darkness roared, yet the light churned, illuminating the remaining symbols that floated in the air like falling stars. Reveal the second rule, Emma cried, her mind racing. And then came the answer, echoing through the mist, a deep, unyielding resonance. To bind your fate, you must confront your fears. Emma clenched her teeth, battling the pull of despair. Behind her, she could hear the cries of lost souls mingling with those who had come before. You chose to face the darkness, to redeem us, they urged, their sorrowful gazes piercing her resolve. Emma, Matt called, his grip tightening. We're breaking it together. With renewed vigor, Emma summoned all the courage she could muster. Give me the strength of my ancestors, she shouted, the flames of determination rising in her chest. The specter howled, the shadows attempting to ensnare them both. But Emma and Matt stood firm, bracing against the tempest of ancestral pain swirling around them. Third rule, to embrace your legacy, you must forgive, the whispered voices sang. Emma felt an ache in her chest, and understanding blossomed. She realized that to sever the cycle of despair, she needed to forgive not only the shadows but herself, too. I forgive you, she whispered, tears spilling down her cheeks as she confronted the pain of loss, the fear of darkness. I forgive us all. As the words left her lips, the light pulsed, a radiant force shattering the bonds that held the ghosts in torment. They began to disperse, the weight of long-forgotten pain lifting, replaced by flickers of relief and joy. Fifth rule, embrace your truth and rise, came the resonating chorus, fortifying every step she took, every breath she drew. Stepping forward firmly, Emma discovered strength blossoming in her heart. I won't hide anymore, she shouted, eyes blazing defiantly. We will carve a new path. The specter lunged wildly, But Emma felt the warmth crash like a tide against her. The shadows twisted but couldn't land a blow. This isn't just my legacy. Her resolve ignited further. It's for every soul seeking freedom. Together, Matt echoed, summoning his own power. They stood shoulder to shoulder, hearts aligned with a force neither had seen before. With every rule recounted, fragments of the dark legacy slipped away, light engulfing the shadows. "We are free," Emma shouted, a defiant cry that resounded through the cemetery and far beyond. The remaining darkness erupted into ethereal sparks of light, scattering across the expanse. The cemetery quaked one last time, the specter dissolving into mist, defeated by the unity of Emma and Matt's hearts as dawn broke over the Hillcrest Cemetery. The air filled with a palpable energy of renewal, a promise of hope. "We did it," Matt whispered quietly, finally grasping Emma's hand, relief washing over him. The shadows of doubt were gone, time feeling lighter than it had before. "Yes," Emma replied, staring into the pink and orange horizon, a sense of peace settling in her bones. "And now it's our chance to rewrite the story, to take charge of who we are." They stood together, gazing at the graves that had sung of despair for too long. With the sun rising, the prison of shadows shattered around them. "We will live to see brighter days," Emma vowed, a determined smile creeping onto her face. Hand in hand, they stepped forward into an uncertain yet promise-filled future, ready to embrace whatever came next. And as they walked toward the light breaking upon them, their hearts sang a new anthem, a bond unbroken, a story unwritten, a legacy of hope restored. Remember, the shadows might always linger, but the light shines ever brighter with those brave enough to embrace it. You need to subscribe now so you don't miss out on more exclusive stories that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and show some love. Flood the comments section with your reactions, theories, and thoughts about Emma and Matt's journey. Don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions.